Careblazer, if you have been watching someone you love change because of dementia, whether it's new challenging behaviors, having to adjust your life, learning as you go, and you have found yourself wondering, do I really need support yet? Things are hard, but I'm managing okay. Maybe I should wait until things get worse. I want you to sit with that thought for just a few moments because what you are feeling right now, it's one of the most common and also one of the most costly mistakes I see dementia caregivers make. And here's what makes it so hard to recognize. It doesn't feel like a mistake. It feels responsible, measured, practical, well thought out. Caregivers often tell me things like, it's hard, but I'm managing, or I want to wait and kind of see how things go before I try to get more help. Or things seem to be moving slowly. I think I can manage on my own. I don't want to overreact. By the end of this video, I want to explain exactly why our brains lead us to wait, why this particular moment right now, when things feel manageable, that's actually one of the most important moments and times to get support. Not one of the least. I want to share an important shift that you can make in your thinking that can protect you for what is ahead. So let me name what this actually looks like. You might be somebody who is managing challenging behaviors, emotional shifts, increasing confusion in your loved one, and you're adjusting how you do things. Your driving, your schedules, your decision making, everything, all to accommodate your loved one with dementia and the changes that they're going through. And you're carrying more and more of the household responsibility, the emotional labor, the planning than you ever were before. And sometimes you may find yourself laying awake at night thinking about what might be coming next. Careblazer, you're caregiving. Even if it doesn't feel official yet, even if they are still relatively independent in many ways, even if parts of you think, I don't want to be too dramatic about this. I hear what other people are going through, and my situation and my loved one isn't quite to that level. You right now are already in it. And the question of when to build support, it's not a future question, it's a right now question. So why do our brains convince us to wait? Here is a brain-based explanation, and there are actually three things happening at once. The first is something called the adaptation level phenomenon. Our brains are remarkable at normalizing things. When something changes gradually, slowly, over months and years, much like dementia does, our brains recalibrate its baseline. So what felt hard and overwhelming 6 months ago, it now becomes your new normal. And so you start measuring today's difficulty against last month instead of against life before caregiving. Here's an analogy that I love for this. Have you ever left your home, maybe for a week-long vacation, and then afterwards you walked back into your home and you thought, oh, it smells like us in here. You had completely stopped noticing that smell, the familiar smell of your own home as you were living in it. It took you leaving for a week to notice it when you came back. It's not that the smell changed, it's that your brain adapted to it. It stopped registering it entirely. That same thing happens with caregiving stress. The changes in your loved one, they are real. The weight you are carrying, it's real, but it has built up gradually enough. Your brain has adapted, and you may no longer be able to accurately sense just how much your life has shifted. Now, the second thing that's happening is something called stress normalization. When difficulty increases slowly, we unconsciously raise our threshold for what counts as hard enough to warrant help. We start comparing ourselves to worst case scenarios. Well, at least it's not as hard as that. Or comparing ourselves to other caregiving stories. At least it's not hard as what Susie is going through. Instead of asking, is this sustainable? Is this what I want to continue carrying alone for months and years? And then the third thing is, this one's important to hear, it's something called anticipatory anxiety, and that creates avoidance. Anticipatory anxiety about what might happen in the future can lead us to avoid thinking and planning and preparing for the future altogether. When we feel anxious about the future, the mind sometimes protects ourselves by minimizing what is currently happening. If we don't fully acknowledge just how hard things are right now, maybe then I don't have to acknowledge how hard things are going to become. I don't even want to think about that. Now, these three things, they're not weaknesses. They're not denial. They are exactly how a healthy brain tries to protect itself from overwhelm. But in this situation, that protection is quietly working against you. Here is what makes waiting harder in the long run. And this is the part I really want you to hear. Support communities, relationships, and resources, they take time to build. If you wait until you are in a crisis, until you are exhausted, depleted, running on empty, you will be trying to build your support network at the moment you have the least capacity to do it. You will be joining a community as someone who needs immediate rescue rather than as someone who is early enough to learn, to ask questions, to build real relationships, and to develop tools before you are desperate for them. There is a meaningful difference between joining a support space when you can still reflect, engage, absorb, versus when you are joining and you're already drowning. Think of it like building a financial safety net. The best time to do it is before you need it, not during the emergency, because during the emergency, your options are smaller, your bandwidth is lower, the decisions you have to make under pressure are almost never your best ones. And something caregivers rarely hear is that the people who benefit the most from getting support early are not the ones in the hardest situations. They are the ones who were self-aware enough to say, I can see where this is going. I've heard about where this is going. I want to be ready. There are some common responses that can actually make this harder to act on. One, comparing your situation to others who are further along in caregiving and deciding that you don't qualify for support yet, or your situation is so drastically different. Waiting for a specific moment, a diagnosis, a major crisis, a particular symptom, before you allow yourself to receive help. Believing that asking for help means admitting that things are falling apart, or telling yourself that if things got worse, that's when you'll reach out. That's the time for you to get help. When in reality, harder circumstances almost always make it harder to reach out, not easier. All of these things seem like reasonable logic, and all of them are the adaptation talking. So here is what I really want you and what I'm hoping you'll take away from today's video. First, name the adaptation. If you have noticed that things are genuinely harder than they were before you started caregiving, even if they feel manageable, that is already meaningful information. You don't have to be drowning to deserve support. You just have to be honest about where you actually are. Second, get an outside perspective. This is one of the most powerful things that a support circle or a support community can do for you. When you have been inside the fishbowl long enough, you stop seeing the water. Other caregivers, people who have been where you are right now, they can reflect back to you what you may not be able to clearly see on your own. And third, give yourself permission to be strategic. Choosing to build your support network now before it feels like you are desperate for help, that's not weakness. It's not overreacting. It's one of the wisest and most loving things you can do for yourself and also for your loved one. I know for many of you watching this, you came here today carrying something heavy. Maybe you're not sure if what you're going through counts. Maybe you're wondering if it's too early. Maybe you're worried it's already too late. None of those things are true. What is true is that you are doing something incredibly hard. You deserve support to meet you exactly where you are, not support you have to wait until you are broken to receive. Talk to your healthcare community, your doctors, a social worker at your local hospital to see what resources and communities might be available to you in order to start receiving some of that help. And if you are someone who wants to be a part of a community where caregivers learn from one another, support each other, Before, during, and through every stage of caregiving, you are welcome to check out our Care Collective program, where we have support rooms running multiple times a week, and the most loving, amazing Careblazers come together to offer support, love, guidance, and I would love for you to be a part of that community. If you're interested in learning more, I put a link to it in the description below. Also, if you haven't already signed up for the Dementia Dose, it's my personal weekly newsletter where I share a thought, something I'm noticing, a practical tip to help you in your caregiving life. I will leave a link for that as well in the description below. It's totally free to join the Dementia Dose. Careblazer, you are doing an incredibly difficult but an incredibly meaningful job here with your loved one. I'm sending you so much love. I will be back next week with a new video. As always, keep up the amazing work. Bye.
Also, Nico gets a belly rub for every person who subscribes from this video. So if you haven't already, click the red subscribe button. It's totally free, and Nico says thank you very much.